Good afternoon, good night, and good morning. This is Crack the Sky. Let's have a look at our top fives for ASX Exchange Traded Funds. This is our daily horizon view, and the day is the 19th of the 3rd, 2019. Let's crack on. Okay, let's have a quick look at the market as a whole. The All Ordinaries today closed up 0.26% at 62.76. Main flavour of the day was materials, consumer discretionary, communication services. Commodity-wise, we had increase in the iron ore price, gold was up, silver's up, platinum's up, oil's up. Other commodities like corn and wheat were down. Top 5 percentage rises. Let's have a look and see what we can see today. We had BNKS, Fuel, IHWL, QRE, and HACK. No major rises by look, averaging all around the 1% today. BNKS is the Beta Shares Global Banks ETF. And that one tracks the performance of the NASDAQ Global ASX Banks hedged back to the Australian dollar. We have a yield on that 4.7%, so that's a good yield. And that gives you exposure to international banks, which is a little bit different. Wells Fargo and JP Morgan and a lot of the bigger American banks. Some Canadian banks and a few other international ones, HSBC as well. Fuel is our global share, Beta Shares Global Energy Companies, if I can get my words out, and that's currency hedged, and that tracks the NASDAQ Global X Australia Energy Index. IHWL is the iShares Core MSCI World All Cap, and that's hedged the Australian dollar. Measures the performance of large, mid, and small capitalization stocks across the globe, mainly focusing on developed markets. QRE is Beta Shares S&P ASX 200 Resources Sector ETF. So people chasing some resources stocks. HACK is the Beta Shares Global Cybersecurity ETF. So that one's going to track a lot of big American companies. On the NASDAQ, most of that. Top percentage falls. Let's see what we had today. No major percentage falls, 0.5% and less. Nothing really to write home about. Looks like pretty low volume as well. So we had Drug, which is the Beta Shares Global Health ETF. It's currency hedged. NASDAQ Global X Australia Healthcare hedged. ISO is our iShares S&P ASX Small Ordinaries ETF. That one looks at the small end of the Australian market. IZZ is our iShares China Large Cap. So that one's chasing some exposure to the big companies in China. ZUSD is our physical US dollar ETF, and that's up next. We have HEUR, and that is our Beta Shares Wisdom Tree Europe ETF, and that's currency hedged. That one gives you exposure to European exporters. Top $5 rises. Let's see what we had today. IVV, IHVV, SPY, IJH, VTS looks like a little bit of an American flavour there. I can smell it. It's spicy. IVV is the iShares S&P 500 ETF. IHVV is the iShares S&P 500 ETF, which is hedged to the Australian dollar. SPY is the State Street Spider S&P 500 ETF, so that's the State Street variation on the iShares. Up after that we had IJH. IJH is the iShares S&P Midcap 400. So that one looks at the performance of the mid-cap sector in the US. BTS, which is the Vanguard US Total Market Share Index. So if you're looking for exposure to total market in the US, so that's a good one. As opposed to specifically going for something that tracks the S&P 500. Moving right along. I mean, nothing much. Looking at dollarizers, nothing much stands out there. It's all pretty average. Up next is our top $5 falls. We had IHCB, IZZ, MVB, VBND, and OZF. IHCB, that is our iShares Core Global Corporate Bond ETF, and that's hedged to the Australian dollar. So that's has a lot of fixed rate bonds issued by corporations in emerging and developing markets worldwide. IZZ is our iShares China Large Cap ETF. MVB is the Van Eck Vectors Australian Bank ETF. So if you're looking for exposure to Australian banks and other listed financial securities in Australia. Then we had VBND. That is the Vanguard Global Aggregate Bond Index hedged ETF. That one aims to hold an appropriate number of securities as to produce an appropriate portfolio risk exposure profile. So that one I think is more balanced, risk averse ETF. We had OZF, which is the State Street Spider S&P ASX Financials, excluding A-REITs, so another Australian-focused fund. A little bit on the down today, but very low volume. Really, a 0.25% or less down anyway, so not really much to write home about for that. Moving right along, we had top 5, a number of trades today. Expecting once again to see all the ETFs, or some of the ETFs, I suppose, because you can't have them all, in the top 10 or 12 largest ETFs in the Australian market. Not really disappointed today. We had STW, VAS, IVV, IAF, and BGS. So STW is the State Street Spider S&P ASX 200 fund. Actually, quite a few trades went through today, probably double normal from vague memory, usually about 250 odd, today over 500. VAS looks to be a little bit of a standard type of day. That's our Vanguard Australia Shares Index, and that tracks the S&P ASX 300. So it gives you a bit more flavour on the typical ETFs to track the S&P ASX 200, IVV, which is our iShares S&P 500 ETF. That's one of the large ones as well. Then we had IAF, which is iShares Core Composite Bond ETF. That one's a bit of a new one on me, I think, or it might be one that pops up occasionally. And that one invests primarily in investment grade fixed income securities. VGS is the Vanguard MSCI Index International Shares ETF, which tracks the returns of the MSCI World ex-Australia Index. So if you're looking for some global exposure, moving along. So volume. Let's see what we can see today. Overall, no massive volume that I can see. We had MVW plus, FLOT, NDQ, and coupon. MVW is the VanEck Vectors Australia Equal Weight ETF. That's a MVIS Australia Equal Weight Index, which that's a VanEck in-house index. Not much more to say about that. That's a new one on me. I have to do a bit more work on that one to work out what the hell that one does. Then we had Plus. So Plus is a VanEck Vectors Australia Corporate Bond Plus ETF. So if you're looking for some corporate bond exposure and a little bit of income, that's one to look at. Then we had FLOT, that's the VanEck Vectors Australia Floating Rate ETF. That one looks at the banks, and yeah, once again, you're going to get some income, but it's going to be low. So quite possibly a good one to put into your portfolio as a monthly sort of income generator, but you're not going to get a lot of income out of that one. Then next up we had NDQ. So NDQ is the Beta Shares NASDAQ 100 ETF. That's quite a popular ETF, that one. If you want exposure to the top 100 shares on the NASDAQ, all the big tech companies. Up after that, we had Coupon, which is the Beta Shares Australia Bank Senior Floating Rate Bond ETF. So that one's powered by the Sol Active Australia Bank Senior Floating Rate Bond Index. So that's a Sol Active Index, which is a little bit different to the other indexes. Top 5 for value. Let's see. Money. So low amount of trades today, low volume, so you're going to expect overall low value. STW, MVW, IVV, VAS, AAA, quite a few of the usual suspects there as we expect. STW is a State Street Spider S&P ASX 200 fund, quite a popular fund, definitely one of the bigger funds, but when you look at the value, really it's a medium to low day today, my feeling anyway. MVW, which is a VanEck Vectors Australian Equal Weight ETF. Once again, it's a new one on me. Got to do a little bit more work, but still no great value going through for that $4.2 million. Not a great deal of activity. Up after that, we had IVV, which is the iShares S&P 500 ETF. Pretty much very, very low value, low volume, low amount of trades today for that. VAS, same story, big end of town. And then, which tends to happen, we had our AAA, which is the Beta Shares Australia High Interest ETF. So if you're looking for income, constant income stream, but lower monthly payment, dividend yield on the payments, that's a good one to look at. Keep your income stream coming in. Definitely one to look at. So the whole point of this is motivational. So we're here giving a little bit of information so we can crack our financial sky, so we can learn what we need to learn, then we can put these things into practice. So we're not promoting any specific product. What we're promoting is education, and then we need to go out and do our own financial plan, and then work out what we need to buy that's specifically for our purposes. Thanks, guys. Like, subscribe. Thanks a lot. Bye.